It's just coming up to 4 years since I launched my coaching business for ELT and ESL freelancers. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the first 4 years and the 4 biggest lessons I learnt in those years, which you can definitely apply to your business too. I'm Rachel Roberts and I help ELT and ESL freelancers work out the best way to use their talents to earn more and work less. Stay to the end to hear my lesson from the last year in business, which is perhaps the most important lesson any business owner needs to learn. I officially started my coaching business in the spring of 2019. At the time, I was also running a successful ELT writing business, so it wasn't my full focus like it is today. But I have to tell you that it wasn't until September 2019 that I started to get regular paying clients for my coaching business. So why did it take 4 to 5 months to get that business off the ground? I know that the prospect of starting a business and then getting no clients coming in is what holds back a lot of the people that I work with from even getting started on their business idea. What are you supposed to do for money if you don't have another business like I did at the time? Since then, I've learned a lot about launching and building up a client base. The first thing I would say is that it is largely the case that organic marketing, which is what I teach, does take time to build momentum. By organic marketing, I don't mean reaching out to cold contacts. I mean clarifying who it is you want to work with, putting your message out there, and posting regularly on social media, among other things. While you may get lucky and pick up a client or two quite quickly who just happens to see a well-written piece of copy and is perhaps already thinking about working with you because of word of mouth, we know that it generally takes cold clients up to 27 exposures to get to the point where they feel ready to trust you and take the leap of working with you. Think of it like teaching. How many times do students need to come across or be taught a new piece of language before they feel really ready to take that into their regular store? And that's assuming that your messaging is well thought out. It's clear who you're trying to appeal to and exactly how you can help them, and you can write good copy. I had some of those things in place, but as I'll discuss later, I hadn't fully niched into what I do today. And while I was reasonably well known as an ELT materials writer and teacher trainer, no one yet knew me as a coach. Looking back, what I should have done to get started earlier, and what I would also recommend to you when you're starting out, is to begin with personal outreach. I'm not talking about cold messaging or cold calling, because I don't feel comfortable with that. However, especially when you're getting started, use the network you already have. Reach out to previous clients and see if they're interested in coming back to work with you again. See whether any of them know someone who could benefit from working with you. Most people feel too shy to do this, but it can really help to get you over that initial hump. And start collecting testimonials, because when you're new, people really need that extra information in order to take that leap into trusting you enough to come and work with you. What advice would you give to someone new to running an ELT or ESL business? Put your best piece of advice in the comments. Year 2 was 2020, and we all know what happened in that year. As a writer, it was a complete disaster. Writing projects that had been planned disappeared, and my royalties also pretty much disappeared because obviously nobody was buying books to use in the classroom. In the early summer of 2000, I started my group program, now called Flourishing Foundations, figuring that as everyone was at home anyway, it might be a good time to launch this program. I was proved right, managed to fill that first program pretty easily, and then went on to do another run of the program the following September. What didn't go so well that year, though, was growing my audience, and in particular my mailing list and Facebook group. Up until that point, I'd found it quite easy to add people to both of those, and they had both been growing quite steadily. And the way it then ground to a halt shocked me and made me reevaluate my whole business model, especially when I then found it quite hard to fill the January 2021 cohort of the group program after easily filling the first 2 within a matter of weeks. Here's what I learned from that experience, which I now teach my clients. If you have a good idea and there's a market for it, it can be relatively easy to start off with. There's usually a kind of pent-up demand for this great idea that you've had. Maybe you quickly build a mailing list or a Facebook group and you're finding it fairly easy to get clients. And then suddenly it starts to grind to a halt. At this point, people can really worry that they've got something badly wrong. But what I've learned is the chances are that they just haven't been focusing enough on building their audience and bringing the next wave of people closer to them so they can get to know them better and be ready further down the line to work with them. The truth is, and a lot of coaches won't tell you this, getting started is often the easy bit. It's keeping up that consistent flow of clients that's more challenging. And in order to keep growing, you probably need to be doing more than posting regularly on social media, useful though that is. For example, I found that running a challenge was a great way of giving a big boost to my mailing list numbers, and there are other ways of achieving this too. But in most cases, audience building is not something that you can just let take care of itself. How do you go about steadily building an audience? Let us know in the comments. So year 3. Financially, year 3 went really well. I doubled my turnover on year 2, which had been my first full year. And after the initial hiccup with the third run of Flourishing Foundations, I got better at audience building and started to fill the group program pretty easily once again. But as the year went on, I realized more and more that I needed to refine my niche. Ironically, for someone who bangs on and on to their clients about the importance of niche, I came to the understanding that I was still trying to please too many people and do too many things. I was working with anyone who considered themselves an ELT professional, whether employed or self-employed, and I was focusing on career and life goals as well as business. I started off my business focusing more on burnout, time management, stress management, and so on. But increasingly what I was actually doing most of the time was helping ELT freelancers like yourselves create and run businesses that work and that worked for their lives. The two things aren't in opposition, in fact, and this is still an important part of what I do in my coaching. Because if we don't sort out the mindset stuff and look after our best business asset, i.e. ourselves, our business isn't going to have much of a future. But my messaging was confused. So at the beginning of 2022, I relaunched my business as Earn, Learn, Thrive Limited and started focusing solely on working with ELT freelancers. Teachers, teacher trainers, materials writers, editors, consultants, but all freelancers. And honestly, it was the best thing I ever did. Suddenly, everybody got it. And I was able to launch my successful membership, the Confident ELT Freelance Collective, off the back of that rebrand. So my lesson for you and for me from year 3 is niche down. It's natural for a teacher to want to help everybody with everything, but this does not help you with creating clear and effective messaging or positioning yourself in a crowded market. You want to be the first person that people think of for a specific thing. Do you see yourself as having a niche? Tell me in the comments. So now we're into year 4, 2023. And my word for this year to help me focus was streamline. I've reworked some big areas of my business, removing some services that were working very well in terms of attracting clients, but which was still spreading me too thin. I want to focus more and more on those key areas where I feel I'm best placed to make the biggest difference. This isn't easy, especially when it means cutting services that are working just fine at one level and bringing in money. But when you are the key person in your business, which is probably the case for you too, then you have to do what Denise Duffield-Thomas refers to as look after the golden goose. You are the golden goose in your business. It wouldn't exist without you. So you have to prioritize your well-being and doing those things you really want to do, or you're going to kill that golden goose. or at least exhaust it and burn it out. And that's the lesson from my 4th year in business. I've also brought in more help. I've hired 2 virtual assistants, one to help with tech issues, and they make my life so much easier. And I'm planning to take on a couple of associate coaches later this year. None of this is easy because naturally I'm quite a control freak, I think, but you have to know when it's time to let other people bring their expertise to the party as well. So 4 years in business and 4 key lessons. Which one stood out for you the most? And what lessons have you learnt from running your business? Tell us about it in the comments. In the next video coming up on your screen, I'm talking about planning and setting goals for your business. Something that many people resist, but that done the right way can be truly transformational.